Kew Gardens, Queens, 1964. In a small workshop, a man is holding the finest FM tuner ever built, and he has just raised its price for the second time. It still loses money on every unit he sells. He knows this. He builds it exactly the way he wants it anyway. This is the story of Marantz. Not a company that was beaten by a better product, but one that was undone by the very thing that made it great. This is how a perfectionist built the most revered name in American audio and could not survive his own standards. It begins with a man who was not an engineer. Saul Marantz was born in Brooklyn in 1911. He was a cabinet maker, a graphic designer, an amateur guitarist with a careful eye and a careful ear. He built furniture, he drew layouts, and in his spare time he listened to records obsessively on equipment that never quite satisfied him. The problem in the early 1950s was standards. There weren't any. Every record label cut its discs with a different tone balance, and no home preamplifier could correct for all of them. A record that sounded right on one system sounded wrong on the next. For most people, that was just how records were. For Saul Marantz, it was intolerable, so he built his own answer on his kitchen table. He called it the Audio Consolette. It was a preamplifier with 7 inputs and 36 selectable equalization curves, one for nearly every label's quirks. It let a listener tune a recording until it sounded the way the musicians had meant it to. He made the first 100 by hand, one at a time, and sold them by word of mouth to people as particular as he was. In 1953, the passion became a business. The Marantz Company opened its doors in Queens. He was still not an engineer, and he knew it. So around 1954, he hired one, a quiet, brilliant circuit designer named Sid Smith, who could turn Saul's uncompromising ideas into working electronics. Between them, the founder with the golden ear and the engineer with the golden hands, they set out to build the best audio equipment in the world. Not the cheapest, not the most popular, the best. For a while, they did exactly that. In 1958 came the Model 7 stereo preamplifier. It stayed in production for 11 years, which in consumer electronics is close to eternity. Serious listeners treated it as a reference, the thing every other preamp was measured against. Then in 1960 came the Model 9, a monaural power amplifier built around vacuum tubes, 70 watts of the most stable authoritative amplification anyone had heard from a home component. The tube-era Marantz sound became a standard that collectors still chase more than 60 years later. To own a Marantz in those years was to own a small monument to doing things properly. The parts were premium. The build was meticulous. Nothing was cheapened to hit a price. Where other companies asked how little they could put in a box and still sell it, Marantz asked how much a box could possibly hold. That was the whole identity. And it was, quietly, already a problem. Because the premium parts and the endless refinement were never fully reflected in what the products cost. Every unit that left the workshop carried more craftsmanship than its price could pay for. The company was, in a sense, subsidizing its own perfection. And no one had yet said the word out loud. But the finest work Marantz ever did was the work that would cost him the company. In 1964, Marantz released an FM tuner unlike anything before it. Designed by a young engineer named Richard Sequeira alongside Sid Smith, the 10B had a tiny 3-inch oscilloscope built into its face, a small green screen that let you see the radio signal and tune it to visual perfection. It was, by wide agreement, the best tuner ever made. It was also a financial catastrophe. It was engineered to a standard the market could not pay for. Marantz priced it around $500, then raised it to $750, and was still losing money on everyone. The program to build it drained the company so completely that Saul Marantz began to struggle to pay his own staff. The masterpiece was bankrupting the master. Notice what this was and what it was not. It was not a failure of taste or of engineering or of demand. People wanted the 10B. It was a failure of discipline in the one direction most companies never fail. Marantz refused, again and again, to make his products worse in order to make them profitable. Faced with a choice between the number on the price tag and the thing inside the box, he chose the box every single time. It is an admirable way to build a tuner. It is a fatal way to run a business. There is a detail here that tells the whole story, better than any balance sheet. In all the years Saul Marantz built the most coveted electronics in America, he patented almost nothing. He did not file. He simply built and rebuilt and refined and let the work speak. The first clean patent in the company's name was filed in 1969, granted in 1971, and its paperwork lists an address in Sun Valley, California. Not Saul's workshop in Queens. The company only started protecting ideas on paper once it belonged to someone else, somewhere else. The moment the craftsman left, the lawyers arrived, because by then, Saul had already brought in help, and help had a price. In 1964, the same year as the 10B, Marantz partnered with a Californian company called Superscope, run by the man who imported Sony's tape recorders into the United States. Superscope had capital, and Marantz needed it. Superscope acquired the company. Within 2 years, in 1966, manufacturing began moving to Japan through a partnership with a firm called Standard Radio. The hand-built-in New York era, the whole reason the name meant anything, was quietly being packed up and shipped across the Pacific. And then, at the end of 1967, Saul Marantz did the only thing left that was consistent with who he was. He left. He resigned from the company that carried his name and walked away entirely, unwilling to preside over the compromises that survival now demanded. The soul of Marantz did not go bankrupt. It did not get bought out in a dramatic collapse. It simply put down its tools and went home. Everything the name stood for, the ear, the refusal, the insistence on the best, walked out the door in December 1967 and never came back. What remained was the name, and the name turned out to be very good at selling things Saul Marantz would never have built. In 1968 came the Model 18, the company's first receiver, a single solid-state box that folded the separate components into one convenient unit for a mass audience. It was the opposite of everything the workshop had believed. Superscope leaned into it. The Marantz badge became the premium label on a growing line of consumer stereo gear, while cheaper products wore the Superscope name below it. Through the 1970s, the business swelled to over 1 million square feet of facilities across 4 countries. It was bigger than Saul's company had ever been, and it had almost nothing to do with him. Then the name began to travel without the company at all. In 1980, Superscope sold the Marantz brand, its dealer network, and nearly all of its overseas business to Philips, the Dutch electronics giant. In 1992, Philips took the American and Canadian rights too. The 4 letters that a man in Queens had hand-lettered onto his first preamplifier were now simply an asset, moved between corporations like a deed to a building the original owner had long since left. Saul Marantz died in 1997 at 85. He lived to see his name become one of the most valuable badges in audio, and to see it mean something completely different from what he had built. In 2001, the brand passed to Marantz Japan. A year later, it merged with its old rival Denon into a single holding company, and from there into a still larger audio group. Today, the Marantz name lives on modern home theater receivers, well-regarded machines built in Asian factories inside a global conglomerate. This is the part where the easy version of the story says the brand was ruined. It was not. The gear is genuinely good, but it is mass-produced, engineered to a price, sold by the container load, which is to say, it is exactly the kind of product the workshop in Kew Gardens defined itself by refusing to make. That is the strange, quiet tragedy of Marantz. Schwinn was killed by its competitors. Marantz was dissolved by its own virtue. The perfectionism that made the name unforgettable was the same perfectionism that made the company impossible to sustain. And when the man who embodied it finally laid down his tools, the name simply floated free and drifted toward the mass market. Because a name will go wherever it is carried, and a standard will only stay where someone is willing to bleed for it. Go back to that workshop in 1964. A man is holding the best tuner ever built, raising a price he knows is still too low, choosing the box over the number one more time. He was right about the tuner. He was right about the sound. He was right about almost everything, except the one thing that would have let him keep it. And somewhere tonight, a green oscilloscope glows on a shelf in a collector's room, tuning a signal to perfection, in a machine worth more now than the company that made it ever managed to charge for it. Every week, another giant. Subscribe, because the next one might be gathering dust in your attic.